This is the last picture that I know of that was taken of her. Oh, I know she's dead. I want to bring my sister home and lay her to rest. I don't care if it's a bone, a piece of hair, a nail. I don't care. I just want my sister.
Very clear from that statement that she does not expect to see her sister alive again. This is an older missing persons case, a young girl at the age of 16 that disappears. And over the years, it's been attached to a few potential serial killer cases. There's not a lot of detail, but we're going to try to do our best because it was a family member that reached out and asked for this. It's time to turn on the searchlight for Nadine O'Dell. Welcome back to Brain Scratch Searchlight. I'm John Lorden. Thank you so much for joining me here today and for caring about these cases like I do. Before we jump into today's case, I just want to let you know we will be off next week for our summer break, but we will resume right after that. So we hope to see you again in 2 weeks. But now let's go ahead and talk about the case of Nadine Jean O'Dell. And I mentioned that it was a family member, at least someone that represented themselves as a family member, that requested today's episode. From what I understand, there seems to be other family members and a bit of a divide happening, maybe in terms of belief around this case. So I'm going to keep the names private on all sides of that. I'm going to try to be fair to represent what's being discussed. But quite honestly, there's one family member that's really pushing into theories that I'm just not finding a lot of supporting information or traction with. So we're going to try to stick to as much of the reported facts as we can find on this. And let's go ahead and start at Find a Grave with some pictures and a quick comment here about Nadine. Nadine was a teen girl who vanished on August 16th, 1974. She was just an ordinary 16-year-old girl who was described as a tomboy and needed to be loved. And Find a Grave does have several photos for her here. I'm noticing they don't have a gravestone, and I'm not sure if she has been classified as deceased. We'll see as we roll through the information. But obviously from her sister's comment at the start of this, we know that, and with the amount of time that's passed, there's a very good chance that she is no longer alive. Starting at NamUs, date of last contact, August 16th, 1974. She went missing at the age of 16. She would currently be 67 years old. Missing from Inkster, Michigan. Nadine Jean O'Dell, a white Caucasian female that was standing at 5 foot 1 inch tall, weighing 105 pounds at the time that she went missing. Circumstances of disappearance. Nadine was last seen shortly after 9:30 a.m. walking down John Daly Road toward Michigan Avenue in Inkster. She was going to babysit at her boyfriend's house, but never arrived at her destination in Taylor. Her boyfriend was on the way to meet her and arrived 20 minutes later and had not crossed paths with her. Apparently, this walk would have been several miles, and I believe that she was a babysitter for the boyfriend's younger siblings. She has blonde, strawberry, long hair and green eyes. For scars or marks, they're just noting that she has freckles. Nothing for accessories. For clothing, they're saying a white t-shirt and blue faded baggy jeans. Footwear is unknown. For jewelry, she was wearing her boyfriend's high school ring on a chain around her neck. It's white gold Taylor Center High class ring with a blue stone and a ram's head on it. And it had the year 1976 or just the numbers 76 on it. Outside of that, that's about it. We do have one age progression that's been released here. I think there's been a few along the years. That one looks like I don't know, maybe estimating her to be in her 40s or early 50s at that point. And of course, we do have the phone number for the Inkster Police Department that'll be on screen. However, if you need to remain anonymous for any reason at all, you could also call it in to Crime Stoppers. Their number is 1-800-SPEAK-UP or 1-800-773-2587. You could also visit them online at 1-800-SPEAKUP.org, and there is a reward of at least $1,000 available for this case. So this takes place in Inkster, Michigan. Inkster is a city in Wayne County in the U.S. state of Michigan, a western suburb of Detroit. Inkster is located about 14 miles southwest of downtown Detroit. As of the 2020 census, the city had a population of just over 26,000 people. However, back in the 1970s, actually a lot more people, almost 39,000 that were living in this area. Over at Click on Detroit, let's get into some of these details. And I actually went looking at newspapers.com. I could not find any historical articles about this case, which is very surprising. Sometimes there's gaps in terms of newspapers.com if they just don't have the particular newspaper for that area. And from what I understand, this area probably had maybe 2 newspapers that were serving it. So we're going to have to rely on kind of more modern information talking about back then. This is one of those articles over at Click on Detroit. Michigan woman remains committed to finding sister missing for more than 40 years. Brenda Lee Hanloser was only 9 when her older sister Nadine disappeared. More than 40 years later, she remains committed to seeing her sister's case solved. O'Dell was 16 years old at the time and was heading to Taylor to babysit at her boyfriend's younger siblings. I don't think they need the word "at" in there. Hanloser said Nadine's boyfriend would meet her at the halfway point. She didn't make it to that point, Hanloser said. He came to the house and he was like, "Where's Nadine?" She wasn't there, and that's how it all started. Hanloser said Nadine was the second oldest child in her family. I just remember her as a very quiet person. She played with us and she babysat a lot. Inkster police said that this is still an open and active investigation. I know it's kind of hard to believe that when you're talking about something nearly 50 years down the way, but here's a different age progression that was done. It looks like this one was done for by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as well. Now, the boyfriend that is mentioning, he would actually wind up on Web Sleuths and share some details there, starting with, "Hi, I was the boyfriend of Nadine at the time she went missing. We would always start walking and meet at the halfway point and then walk back to my house. It would take only about 20 to 25 minutes for us to meet up. Beach Daily Road is a straight shot, and she lived on the border of Inkster and Dearborn Heights." I think he means Heights. "Sometimes I would walk all the way to her house and could make it in under an hour. She was one special girl, and whatever happened, she did not deserve, and she will not be forgotten." Now, something else he shared in this thread, and of course I have links to everything that we're looking at down below so you can ride through all this for yourselves as well. She would walk to Sunningdale, to Meadowbrook, to North River Park, to John Daly, then cross Michigan Ave to the first street past Michigan, and then down to Bam, and then Tow Bridge to Beach Daily. We would meet anywhere between Ross and Andover and then walk to my house in Taylor. So I've tried to mimic that on this map, the exact turns that he's talking about. So from what it looks like, her family lived somewhere up in this area. I don't know that this start point is exactly right, but as the streets that he's describing, she goes down Sunningdale, she turns on Meadowbrook, North River Park Drive. That gets her to John Daly down to the first street, Keene, Trowbridge, and then Beach Daily Road. And then he says that he would typically meet up with her kind of right around this area here. We've got Dartmouth and Ross, and Andover is down here. So I just picked kind of in the center. Now, one thing that's interesting, he's saying that that's kind of the halfway point. That's already 2.5 miles according to this walking path. And admittedly, this must be figuring a very slow walker, because 2.5 miles, you know, if you're going at a decent clip, you could probably do that in closer to 40 minutes. That almost lines up with what he's saying. And, you know, when you're a kid, I think distances can sometimes be a little harder to understand than that. I guess what we could do is also run it to Taylor and just see where Taylor is, just to get some feeling of how much farther it would have been. But of course, this is going to go to the center of Taylor. And it's saying about 6 miles. No, I think he's probably pretty spot on in terms of it being the halfway point. But look, I mean, Google's estimating that would be a 2-hour walk. That seems like a pretty long walk, but keep in mind, this is 1976, just a different time in the world, and certainly in America, in terms of children's safety and being able to trust your neighbors and all that stuff. Stopping over at the Charlie Project. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot more detail out there. The basics that we've hit here, that's all that I've been able to find for information from that particular time. What happens later in 2018 is authorities announced that a man named Arthur Ream is a possible suspect in Nadine's case, as well as the disappearances of Cynthia Kuhn, Kimberly King, Kim Laro, and Kelly Brownlee. And he is basically convicted. I don't know if I could say that word on YouTube, but he also murdered Cindy Zarzicki and sexually assaulted her. I'm pretty sure I could say that. While in prison, Ream reportedly told cellmates he was a serial killer with 4 to 6 victims. So he's talking up in prison, and that's kind of leading investigators to look in his direction. I'm sure they've got information in terms of, you know, where he was operating and him being out. That's one of the things that I saw is some families that have been kind of put into his realm of consideration are looking at the times that he was in jail, because he's kind of been in and out of jail. And for their particular cases, that made them kind of write him off. For her case, for Nadine's case in particular, it seems like he was out at that time. And interestingly, he hasn't mentioned her at all. It's not that type of bragging, if that's what you call it, that he appears to be doing in jail. But let's learn a little bit more. Who is this guy? Ream is a convicted murderer currently in prison for the rest of his life. This is as of 2018 in terms of reporting. In 1975, Ream was charged with taking indecent liberties with a child and sentenced to 5 years in prison, according to Michigan Department of Corrections records. So, see, that sounds like he should have been in jail at the time, but from what I understand, he's still in consideration for Nadine's case. In 1996, he pleaded guilty to third-degree criminal sexual conduct with a minor between 13 and 15 years old. A judge handed down a 15-year sentence, which Ream was serving when he was implicated in Cindy Zarzicki's murder. He's serving a life sentence at Michigan's Ernest C. Brooks Correctional Facility in Muskegon Heights. That's as of 2018. So around all this, they kind of figure we should go back to the location. I guess he took them to the location of Cindy's body. So they figure they should do more searching there. They're also noting here that he failed a polygraph. Detectives that worked with him have just been very clear. This is, first of all, a man that does seem to like to brag, but also a man that seems to like to manipulate people. So the information that they're getting from him, they can never be sure if it's really accurate or not. They put him through a polygraph. He fails the polygraph. So just a character that's obviously not easy to deal with. They are out there for numerous days. This report is from, they're at day 3 of digging for clues. Investigators brought in more equipment. It's the same field where 13-year-old Cindy Zarzicki's remains were found after her killer led investigators to the spot in 2008. Arthur Ream killed Zarzicki when she was just 13 years old in 1986. Also, it's a really dark story. She was actually the girlfriend of his son. It gets worse from there, unfortunately. Police said there is probable cause to believe that the site is a graveyard. And the other thing that's unfortunate is apparently this site is huge. We're talking acres and acres and acres, and they don't know exactly where to look, but they're doing all they can to find something out there. Now authorities are working in the same area in connection to other cold cases that may be connected to Ream. And of course, they're mentioning the same ones we did before. And here they specifically list the case of Nadine O'Dell also being in there. And here are pictures of some of the other cases that may be connected to him. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure if any of these cases have really been linked to him strongly. I know he was never charged for any of these other cases. So they do their best, they do their search, but eventually they have to call the search off. Warren Mayor Jim Fout says that because money and manpower are not unlimited, he needs more information before allowing the search to expand in Macomb Township and into other cities. "You promised you wouldn't leave those girls behind," said Nadine's sister. Now, he's not the only serial killer to be considered in this. The Toronto Sun is reporting on another man known as the Sunday Morning Slasher. Now, with a name like that, of course, you're probably curious, well, what day did this happen on in terms of Nadine's disappearance? August 16th, 1974 would have been a Friday. But let's go ahead and learn more about Coral Eugene Watts. Some law enforcement estimates put him on par with serial killer Samuel Little, who's believed to have notched 100 victims. One homicide detective recalled, Watts did say one thing eventually: there aren't enough fingers and toes in this room for the number of women I've killed. He claimed he committed his first murder in Michigan when he was just 15 years old. On October 30th, 1974, Gloria Steele, who was 20 years old, was kidnapped, tortured, and killed by Watts in Kalamazoo. The Western Michigan University student was discovered with a crushed windpipe and 33 stab wounds in her chest. Steele was his first known murder, but Watts was also strongly suspected of being the killer in the September 6, 1972 murder of Zenaida Tomes, and he's also suspected in the disappearance of Nadine Jean O'Dell. Unfortunately, there's not any information here about what is causing that suspicion, unless it's strictly the time and area that he was operating here. The paper is called The Unknown Killer, the Sunday Morning Slasher, because the slayings all occurred on Sundays around 4 a.m. And here are pictures of numerous victims of his as well. It's terrible. His body count mounted to 13 confirmed kills in Michigan. Even though he was nabbed in 1982, it didn't emerge until 1990 that he was a serial homicidal maniac with dozens of victims. And then in 2007, the low-key killer died behind bars of cancer. Obviously, there was no deathbed confession or anything along those lines, and Reams would also pass away, and apparently they tried to talk to him on his deathbed. Did they actually get any info out of him? Over at Click on Detroit, what suspected serial killer Arthur Reams said with his last words. Suspected serial killer Arthur Reams is dead, and a detective close to the case shared some of his last words. He was a bad guy at the beginning, said Warren Police Detective Sergeant Jim Twardsky. He was a bad guy at the end. He enjoyed messing with cops at the beginning. He enjoyed messing with cops at the end. Just an all-around bad person. In total, Twardsky spent over 50 hours interviewing Ream, and he said there were several times when he and his partner thought Ream was at least considering bragging or offering information about other crimes. But he never actually did, Twardsky said. He doesn't express emotion or feel fear or joy or any emotions like the rest of us, so that's challenging. We tried to maybe see if he would brag about it or just want to get some notoriety, and, quite frankly, I think he just enjoyed knowing something we didn't know, Twardsky said. So it sounds to me like the detective still has him in consideration for those other cases, but he did not give up any information before he passed away. And of course, where does this leave the family of Nadine? We have comments here from Brenda Lee Hanloser. I know there's somebody out there that knows. Somebody's seen something. Nadine wouldn't stay away. She would not have stayed away. She would have come home to my mom. She's out there somewhere, laying in the ground. When O'Dell went missing, she was 5 feet 1 inch tall and weighed around 105 with long strawberry blonde hair and green eyes. She was last seen wearing faded, baggy blue jeans, a white t-shirt, and her boyfriend's Taylor High School class ring with a 76 or a 1976 on it. It's a white gold ring with a blue stone on it and a ram's head. And while the missing persons case remains open, O'Dell has been listed as a victim of suspected homicide. So again, I don't know if she has been legally declared deceased, but detectives are certainly treating this as a homicide case. As I mentioned before, there is a $1,000 reward for information available through Crime Stoppers in this case. If you need to remain anonymous, that's the way to do it. You can call 1-800-SPEAK-UP. That's 1-800-773-2587. Or you can submit a tip online at 1-800-SPEAKUP.org. If you don't need to remain anonymous, then please use the phone number that's been on the screen this whole time. Call it right into Inkster. That might improve the chances of that tip being acted on, at least in terms of speed. So we certainly want to help this family. 50 years is way too long. Now, I know I've mentioned there seems to be other family members with differing opinions on this. Effectively, what I can get from the dialogue on that, and if you want to see it for yourself, you can go to Web Sleuths, because it's a bit of a unique situation that's happened there. Nadine's boyfriend has been certified. So we're pretty sure that he is who he says he is. a family member has also been certified there. And they seem to be alluding to the possibility that other family members might be involved with what happened to Nadine. Now, Nadine's boyfriend also seems to hold that opinion, but at some point, there's some little rift that happens between the two of them when Nadine's boyfriend won't share information with the family member. I guess Nadine's boyfriend was contacted by detectives and they told him to stay quiet. So, and especially on a public forum, he's not sharing information. That kind of turned the other family member. I don't know how close the relation is for this other family member. They've put together a YouTube page. I will include that in the links down below, but I've watched all the videos there, guys. And to be honest, I'm not exactly following what they're trying to say. It's like they're trying to tell me something without actually just coming outright to say it. What is being alluded to is that family members of Nadine's, and they're showing pictures of these people from back in the day, 1970s, 1980s, seem to look like composite drawings of a uncatched killer from the area. And that's as much detail as I want to give it, because honestly, the way that the composites are being used in this case, I'm not super convinced by. That's not what I believe composite drawings are for and how they're supposed to be used. There's a little other information just about where family members were and places that they lived and stuff like that that may support the theory just a little bit more, but it's way too weak. And I'm trying to toe the line of honoring. It was a different family member that reached out and asked for this coverage. And I've seen this situation before, particularly with missing persons cases. Some family members believe one way, other family members believe another. That usually creates a rift. These family members don't get along for months, years, decades. I have a feeling that's what's going on here. I don't know firsthand, but I'm just trying to toe the line of being respectful, share the information that could be as helpful that I could verify, and try to be helpful to the case in that way. One other thing I do want to point out is I've looked into enough cases of this nature. Young person that goes walking to get to another location, they never get there, and the theory that they never left home is a usual component of those cases, and for good reason. There are several cases that we could look at, even currently unsolved. I'll let you name them off the top of your head, where there's high suspicion around the families, bizarre occurrences that just don't seem to make sense, and the possibility that the child never left home in the first place is certainly at play. The one thing that stands out to me about the logistics of this case is we have a very long walk. We have a population that was higher at that point. So we've got a lot more potential people that are coming by, seeing a young woman walking down the street on her own. And there's also one particular thing in the map that is grabbing my attention as well. Let's go ahead and bring it back up real quick. We actually have to turn on the satellite view to get this. But some of this area, and I imagine it looked way different in the 1970s, is through significant brush. This is a park. This is a nature trail. If an abduction's going to happen, if this is someone, crime of opportunity, or worse yet, like someone that had some foresight or had some information on, checked out her routines, knew that she would walk a certain way on certain days. This area is really striking me. I would imagine that local law enforcement did a pretty heavy search of this, especially considering how close it is to the starting point for her walk. But that place is just really, really sticking out to me. I mean, look how rich the vegetation is and how far this goes. If someone's going to do something to a young person, outside of pull them into a vehicle and just completely take them out of the area, this is the area that I'm looking at for that to happen. I'm really not seeing any other areas along this walking path that make sense for that. But again, admittedly, this case is almost 50 years old. This area could have looked considerably different. And we know that she basically didn't make it to their usual meetup point, which would have been right around here somewhere. And there's nothing sticking out to me like this area does. Ultimately, I hope this has been helpful and respectful. I'm always trying to toe that line. And if any other family members see this, I hope that you guys recognize that that's what we're going for here. For those of you that want to help with this case, please share it. If you have any friends in Michigan, we want to re-raise exposure to this. It's hard enough to get exposure raised to a case when it's outside of 5 years old, 10 years old. It needs every ounce of help that it can get. If you have friends out here, please share this video. If you don't, you can also still help by leaving a comment, hitting the upvote. That tells YouTube to show this video to more people, and that's what we need in cases just like this. A big thank you to everyone that supports our work here. You might notice there was no commercials during this presentation, just one at the start. And if you're kind enough to wait for the one at the end, that is also really helpful. We do that so that you can stay focused on the case, and we can only do that because of our amazing support. If you'd like to become one of those supporters, please visit lordandarts.com. There you can sign up for Patreon, sign up for PayPal, buy merchandise, or even just buy us a coffee. It helps keep us here doing what we're doing, trying to help these families in these very tough situations. Thank you so much. And remember, again, we're off next week, but we will be back. Please join us in 2 weeks for another mystery right here on the Lord and Arts channel.